and that's not ignoring your audience. I am trying very hard not to ignore you as I'm speaking to you, because if I ignored you, that you would know and you wouldn't care about what I have to say. What do you think that you need to look for in your audience to react to? What would be it?
There's some mini games you should have to ask.
Games? What do you mean?
Like this. Like you ask me something and I must give you an answer.
Yes, that's actually is part of it that you can do. It's like an activity that you can do. It's engagement. Engaging your audience is good. It's one of the things that I actually have prepared there in the list later. But what sort of state of the audience you should be careful about? What is a bad state of your audience? Bored, yes. Bored is, that's death. If your audience is bored, then you really need to do something about it. What else may be bad that your audience is doing, or what's happening to them?
They are speaking.
Yes, they are interrupting or causing trouble and
Disagreeing.
Yes. In a debate, especially, there's this thing like watching the judge, listening to what you're saying, and just there you can see a lot of what's going on in his head. Because judges are also just people, and so you can see if they're, for instance, like going like, or if they're going like if you're saying something and judge is going like that, then probably you need to do something about what you're saying. Well, you shouldn't get too manipulative. I had a friend who was let's say it like this. He studied law to be a lawyer and now makes money by playing poker. So it's that kind of person, and he was brilliant at this. He would watch the judge and he would see just the little changes, and he would change what he meant mid-sentence. In a sense that he would start the sentence, and if he's not going right, then he just sort of makes a somersault, maneuver in there somewhere. But what I actually wanted to say, and then the judge would suddenly go through a variety of emotions, and it would be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, and then he would continue in that direction. This is like the extreme, the total extreme of disability. But in a debate, generally, it's good to be aware of the audience either being on your side or not being on your side, because that's a gauge of how persuasive you are. So you need to, that helps you improve. That's a feedback mechanism. It's not just that you're doing it better for their experience or that you're increasing your chances of winning, but it's improving your style. If you are conscious of your audience, it just makes you better. And that's something that perhaps you learn better in theater than you learn in debating alone. Because in theater, could you ignore your audience if you're playing a play in the theater? Would you be a successful theater? Yeah, probably not. You probably would go out of business. It's something that, that's existential, really, that's your reason for being, entertaining the audience. In a debate environment, not so much, but still, you need to be able to read your audience. And there's a few very basic things, as I said. Be entertaining, it's of course the basic on board, and as somebody pointed out here, it's also very good to be engaging. That's a very good thing to do, because why do you think I am giving you things to do and asking you questions? It's exactly to maintain your attention and to make sure that this is actually doing something for you. Then be personal. It's like people like listening to people. They don't want a robot telling them what's going on. And if you've ever been at a lecture at a university, you might have encountered someone whose style of saying things was very impersonal and robotic. And it's something that you don't want to do, because it's the problem with being monotonous, talking in the same way all the time. But also because you really want to humanize yourself if you're speaking. So you could use here and there an anecdote from your own personal experience, so that the audience knows that you're a human who has personal experiences. Or you can phrase things in a way that just speak closely to people. You talk about things that the audience may have experience with. And then, of course, be compelling is important, and that's something that we've talked a lot previously in the the logic of argumentation. How does one make sense? So, of course, it does incredibly help if you also are able to say something that's logical and makes sense. In terms of structure, you should have a structure to your speech, and that's some of the things for beginners especially. It's a good crutch at the beginning, but then you sort of have to throw it away and improvise more. But each speech should have some sort of structure so that it can be followed. Because if it's not clear what you're going to say and the people can't follow you, don't know where you're going, then it's not very effective, no matter what the kind of speech it is. So what do you think like a speech in terms of structure needs to have, must have at the beginning? And it's not a trick question.
Introduction.
Introduction, yes. You need to have some sort of introduction. What would be in the introduction ideal?
Presentation. Hi, my name is...
Could be, yes. If it's necessary to say who you are, then of course, by all means, explaining who you are, though just saying your name will probably not be enough. It needs to be something personal, some personal context. But but apart from that, what do you need to do at the beginning in terms of what you're going to talk about later?
Give an insight into the topic.
Sorry?
Give an insight into the topic.
Yes, you could definitely, in a debate especially, sort of define what you're going to talk about at the beginning. What does it even mean that you're talking about? Yes. But then your points, in terms of your points throughout the speech. What do you need to do with them at the beginning?
To grab the attention.
Grab the attention, yes. Grabbing the attention is very good. Which is what these sort of like the suddenly things are for. But if you have points, and that's probably a bit of a technical thing, it's called signposting. It's good if you have a number of, for instance, arguments, to at the very beginning say that you have these arguments, just their names. So what I'm going to talk about today is I have arguments A, B, and C. They need to be brief, of course. And if you do that at the beginning, then people can follow you much better for the rest of your speech. After the introduction is over, then there's of course the the main body, the main text, the main message of what you're talking about. That's clear, because this is really the same as if you're writing something. It's just like a specifics differ, but it's really if text is even something you speak. So what you know about structure of text in many ways applies to structure of speech. But there has to be some sort of main body of what you're talking about. That's really not the complicated thing. But what should be at the end? Summary. And beyond just summarizing what you're talking about.
The conclusion.
Conclusion, yes. Conclusion is a bit more than summary, because you need to show in some way how what you've done throughout your whole speech had a point. You need to at the end remind everyone of what the point of your speech was. Now it doesn't have to be a debate. In a debate your point was probably to show that the opponent didn't really do well, and you did. But if it's, for instance, a speech like in media, if it's in television, and you are, for instance, a politician who's trying to win votes or to convince people about some sort of public issue, then what would be the kind of thing that you do at the end? For a politician, trying to get something, what would you remind everyone of at the very end? Yes? Yes, like something like vote Romney 2012 or something. You would say, for instance, like, yes, and don't forget to vote for me. If you look at YouTube videos, what do they say at the end of YouTube videos? Subscribe. Yes, subscribe. Yes, you have been successfully conditioned by the social media. Subscribe is what they would say at the end, or like rate, comment, subscribe, like, do everything. So you share. Yes, of course. I forget about sharing. So that's exactly the kind of thing that you want to do at the end. Remind you what the point of all of that was, as well as summarize what we've learned today. So that's something that definitely should go at the end of any kind of speech. And as you can see, you have figured out what I had prepared beforehand. It's really not a mystery, and you probably on some level already know it. It's just very important to really, really actually do it. And then finally, let's sort of brings it into full circle closing. Know your stuff. It really, really helps, and not in ways necessarily that you would expect. If I say that you need to know your stuff to have a good speech, to be better at public speaking, what do you think would happen if you had some sort of, it's called script, you had a script prepared, but then somebody had some sort of input, and they would do something unexpected, and you had to respond. Like how, on the basis of what can you improvise? Knowledge, exactly. If you know more than you just what you have prepared, then if you go, so as they say, off script, you still have something to say, something to talk about. So that is very important, especially if you want to be able to react and respond, which in the debate is super important. But in any kind of public speech, it's generally, and we've talked about it in my previous lecture a lot, you know, there's no sense really in being vague unless your goal is to really not offend anybody. Then probably being vague is the way to go. But if you want to convey anything, then vagueness is your enemy, not your friend. And you need to... I'm sorry? Did somebody say something? What was it?
No, nothing.
Okay, well, you really can have input, of course. Having the facts also helps, and especially if they are actual facts. As I've been recently to Prague Open debating tournament for university students in Prague, and there was the final debate where one side really didn't know what they were talking about factually, and the chief judge, then when they were explaining the decision, summed it up very well when he said, we heard a lot of facts in this debate, some of them true. So it's the kind of situation that you don't want to get into, and because that's not going to help you in any circumstances. Even if it's like in the TV and you're a politician, if you say things that are not true, somebody somewhere at some point will point it out, and will become known, and then you will get completely destroyed by someone like John Oliver in The Last Week Tonight, if you know him, because John Oliver from The Last Week Tonight even takes as targets, like leaders of countries in the third world, like anybody from anywhere. Even Czech Republic got a mention. There was this show in Czech Republic, the Holiday in the Protectorate. Czech people probably know. It's like from the pretend like a family during pretend Second World War. It's a reality show, and they have to sort of survive it. So even Czech Republic got a mention on that show. So it's really, no matter what you do, where you are, there's always a danger if you just say nonsense that will come back to haunt you. So the making of logical sense, of course, is very important. But we have talked about logic a lot in the previous lecture. So can any one of you tell me, since you've been to my previous lecture, what kind of things are illogical? Do you remember any of these logical fallacies?
Straw man?
Yes, which is?
I don't know, I just remember the name, it was nice.
Yeah, straw man is when you take something that the opponent said and make a caricature of it and then defeat the simplified version, even though you haven't actually defeated their argument. So any other logical fallacies that you remember?
That's the right presumption. But if I see, well, let's say I see you and I see Vincent.
Yeah.
So I automatically presume that all your team is unmanned.
Oh, right. Sort of the fallacy of in an insufficient amount of examples on which you draw conclusions from the induction thing. Yes? But any simple things. So what you shouldn't do in a debate?
Lie.
What?
Lie.
Lie, of course. Lying is a very basic one. What's the other one? Those basics. Insult, yes, you shouldn't base your argument on insult. What else?
Don't read from page.
What?
Don't read from page.
That's not a logical fallacy. Something that's not logical.
Red herring?
Which is?
When you're talking about something that doesn't really have sense with this.
Yeah. When you're dodging or evading what you need to be talking about, yes, etc., etc. There's a lot of these, and really good to remember those. So really, as I've said before, you can really look all those up online. There are many different lists of things that don't make no sense, to quote Americans. So the thing is, if you really get through all of these, then you should be able to do a perfectly good public speech. So to sum up and to have some sort of conclusion, I hope that I have demonstrated that you need to focus, if you want to be an adequate public speaker, on your style, on your structure, and on your content, which is the way in which debaters generally talk about it. You need to have a style that's engaging and interesting, You need to have a structure that makes sense, which also helps the audience, makes it easier for the audience to know what you're going to talk about and what you have talked about. And the content needs to be logical and based on facts, and it shouldn't be vague.